Assalamu alaikum. My name is Jihad Adwan. I'm a professor at the Minnesota State University in Mankato, Minnesota, USA. I'm very happy to join you today in the first International Conference of Health Professions. And my study is entitled Dynamic Online Peer Evaluations to Improve Group Assignments and Nursing E-Learning Environment. First of all, I would like to disclose that I have no financial interest or any other relationship with the planners of this conference or providers of any services that will be discussed or presented or could in any way influence any other study that is being presented today. My ideal target audience for this presentation is educators, especially educators in nursing and healthcare professions in general, and specifically those who are teaching in online courses that involve group projects among students might find this presentation useful. So we'll get started. I'm noticing some changes in the format of the slide, so I apologize for that. I think the template is an Arabic version of PowerPoint, and it's kind of shifting everything to the right, these bullet points and little stars. So I hope you understand that this is not something I can control. Anyways, so just wanted to tell you a little bit about the advantages of Google Forms. I'm sure some of you are familiar with Google applications, and we all know that Google presents a lot of different apps that we can use either in personal life or actually in academic setting. And as educators, you may have noticed that group work among students is very important, but also very hard to evaluate, especially those students that are freeloaders, as we call them, those who do not put equal amount of work in the project. So they end up getting the same grade, even though they didn't put in the proper amount of work that they were expected to do. So with Google Forms, it's kind of a shift from paper and pencil evaluations to online. And as a tool, Google Forms or any other surveys online, you may find other equal applications around that can do the same, but this is the app that I used under Google services. So anybody with a Google account can use Google Forms. So they're very, very easy to use, and they are free. So anybody really can experiment with those. You can collect data and save it as a spreadsheet. Also, the data that you collect can be presented in real time. All the numbers that come in, you can look at them right away, and you can manipulate the spreadsheet to create some simple color-coded and colored graphics that mean something to you. You can, like in any spreadsheet, you can sort by group, by a group member, the score, the comments in real time. So you as the instructor can be seeing and monitoring what's going on, as well as giving timely feedback as you watch how the group members are evaluating each other. So in short, this tool promotes accountability and equal contribution and participation, because everyone will be watching everyone else, how they are doing it and whether they are contributing or not. So here's the old method. I have an example of a class, Nursing 3115, Health Informatics, which was 100% online. The class doesn't meet in person. All the materials are on the internet, and students also participate in group projects together. So the old forms was just a simple Microsoft Word document where the students can download it and then fill out the application. As you can see here, the criteria, how students participate from one did not contribute at all to a certain task to five where the contribution was exceptional or outstanding. And then it moves on to give each member a particular grade or a number for their participation, like we're going to see in the next slide. So here's the actual evaluation form. It's paper and pencil where the student can just write in the team member, as you can see in the top, team member 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. And also the tasks for each or the criteria under which they are being evaluated. Under research activity for the assignment, analysis, writing of the report, participation in discussion, oral presentation, preparation, and overall contribution. And each member will take a minute to evaluate themselves and others and give them a score from 1 to 5. Very simple, very easy to use. But there is a problem with it. The problem here is that in this example, the class that I was teaching had 70 students in it, and there were 2 group assignments, and the class was split into groups of 5 on average, sometimes 5 or 6, and each of the evaluations had, as we saw in the previous slide, had 6 items or areas under that criteria. So after you multiply 2 assignments by 70 students, by 5 members each, by 6 evaluation items, you end up with 4,200 pieces of data that you as the instructor will have to make sense of and analyze all that manually. So I'm asking you as an instructor, I don't know if you have been into that experience, and how does this sound to you? Do you have the time to analyze all this information manually? This will take hours, if not days, to look at and make sense of all the information. So briefly, this study that I conducted, the aim was to assess the effectiveness of the evaluation tool. And what I did was split the class into several groups, and there was 2 periods of evaluation. The first one was after the first project, and the results, of course, were documented. And then based on that, I gave feedback how everybody's doing. If they're doing well, say thank you, you're doing great, keep going. And I'll show you how the responses were ranging from, keep up the good work to solving problems within members of the group. And then the second evaluation or the feedback came after the second project, and also the results were documented. And finally, the first and second feedbacks were compared. And of course, a peer t-test would be the best way to look at individual and group change in their performance based on the first feedback, and then the instructor feedback, and then the second evaluation by their group members. So instead of that paper and pencil tool, I converted the paper evaluation tool into Google Forms. Instead of questions on paper, the questions I built into a survey using Google Forms. As you can see here, when the student logs in, they see their name, and then there's instructions what to do. And here are the examples of questions. The first one is to select the assignment or the project that they are giving feedback on. In this case, assignment 2 and 4. I know I refer to them as assignment 1 and 2, but the course had individual assignments and group assignments. Assignment 2 and 4 are projects that are for groups. So we'll just sometimes mention group or assignment 1 and 2 or 2 and 4. Those are the same. And then each person puts their name, and then they select the group that they are from. So if they are in group 1, 2, 3, they select that number. And once the student puts their name in and select their group, then they select the group member that they want to give feedback on. Here there are no names, obviously, but option 1, 2, 3, there could be a student name. Those, of course, the instructor has to upload into the form so that students, when they give feedback, they know which student to give feedback on. So as part of the new evaluation tool, you can design it the way you want, like any online survey tool. So there are some quantitative measurements, such as a Likert scale or a rating. Here, the student would just say they want to give feedback on the research activity of this one member. So they can give a number between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or not applicable. And that's based on the criteria that is already published for this assignment. So you can just put numbers rating, or in other forms, as we will see in the next slide. As you can see here, you can also add qualitative or contextual feedback in terms of describing the experience of the student. For example, please add any additional comments. These comments or ideas or suggestions or something, a description of how things went, because sometimes numbers don't capture the entire picture. So if you can view these numbers in the context of feedback that is given as comments, you can understand the depth and the width of if there's a problem or there's an issue that the students have been going through. And once the student is done entering their feedback, they hit the submit button, and then they're done. So once you start collecting all these feedback items from students, you receive all that information within Google Docs as a spreadsheet. And then once you have all these numbers, you can create whatever analysis, whatever shape or form of analysis that can help you understand what's going on. For me, the fact that this spreadsheet can be color-coded is very helpful. I'm a visual person myself, and the color key here gives you kind of an insight how I looked at the data. For example, I use a function of changing colors of the cells based on what number is in the cell. If the number is big, like 5, you might get green color. If the number is average, green means good or excellent. And then the feedback that I give is commendation or thank you or you're doing a great job. If the number is between 3 or 4 or between 2 and 4, then it's average. and then this needs attention, and I would send an email to the student saying, your score is average, please work harder, be more helpful with your group for the next time. If it's below average here, the cell becomes red. If the numbers are small, then the cell will be red, and that means there is a problem either at the personal level or the group level, and that's when I would step in to solve if there is any conflict or any problems between the group members. If somebody didn't leave feedback or didn't receive feedback, then the cell will be blank, and a blue color would show up. Obviously, these don't make a lot of sense until you actually see them in reality, how the spreadsheet looks. So hang on for a sec. Here, let's talk a little bit about actual numbers and means and standard deviations. As you can see here, the blue bars represent the mean of the scores in the first feedback. The green represent the means of scores in the second feedback. And as you can see, the results are showing the comparison between the two means and standard deviation of the peer feedback or peer evaluations between assignments 2 and 4, or here shown as mean 1 and 2, as I mentioned before. Those are the same thing. As you can see here, there is a difference where the scores are higher the second time around, especially the grand means. That means for the entire criterion, all the criteria put together, as you can see, that there is a positive change. So the mean is higher the second time, which means the first attempt or the first feedback, students did not get a lot of good feedback, or not as much as the second time, and then the second time there was an improvement. And we're going to see that in color in the next slides. Those are the results of the pair t-test. As you can see, there is significant difference among all these pairs. These are all the groups that were represented in all the suggested areas. As you can see here, p-values are under 0.05, and as you can see, there is a significant difference between the scores in the first evaluation and the second, meaning there is a positive change among the group, and the tool is helping the groups work better, helping the members contribute more to the work of the group. All right, so now to the visual data representation. As you can see here, there are these boxes or squares with numbers in them. The bigger the box, the color will turn green. If it's in the middle, like 3, it's a yellow. If it's at the bottom, 1 or 2, it turns red. So these are individuals who scored lower. As you can see on the left-hand side, before the intervention, and then the criteria is on the left: research, analysis, writing, presentation, overall, and discussion. And the red indicates that someone did not do well in each of these categories. If you look at the after intervention among all these criteria, you can see more green the second time. The green here is represented more. The red is almost gone, and it's changing into green and yellow, so there is an improvement in this particular group. We'll see a couple more of those in the next few slides. This is an example of clear improvement in one group, where this particular member here had a lot of yellow and red in it, and then look in the bottom below the yellow and red. That represents the same group member, and the scores turned into fours and fives, green. So they turned from yellow, red to green. On the left-hand side, you see a few yellow spots that turned all green the second time around. So before, you have a lot of yellow and red. That means low scores. I stepped in, gave feedback, and then after the second group, the second assignment, the group gave better feedback to everyone else. So this is a clear, representation of what improvement looked like. In this slide, you see everything is green, and the secret to this, it's no mystery. Some groups are high-performing groups. Those students who work very hard, they work early, they finish their work, and every member of the group contributes equally. So they reach the maximum. In the top, there is some fours and many fives. At the bottom, there's a lot of fives. And they're still in the green. That means they reach the top performance level, and there isn't much. They hit the ceiling, basically, of scoring, in their peer evaluations, and that's the highest they can get. They're not going to improve much higher than that. So I call those the high or consistently high performance groups. So what have I learned from this experience? I wanted to ask the students what they thought about the tool. And I asked them very simple questions. For example, their degree of agreement with these statements. For example, peer evaluation survey was easy to use, and it was time consuming. I'm asking this question in the negative, so I don't want to lead the person answering it. So basically what they're saying here is that most of them agreed that the evaluation tool is easy, and also it's not time consuming. As you can see in the numbers, the survey was easy to use. You have all of the students saying agree and strongly agree. Where in the second about time consuming, there are some disagreement, but still more people in the agree and neutral area than the disagree. So it's time. Yes, there is time that needs to be given to this kind of tool, and that is a requirement by the course. So the students may not like it too much. Another thing I asked the students about is that whether this tool is an objective method to assess the group's engagement, and most students agree. And also most people agree that it accurately reflects the group assignment components, so it relates directly to what's in the assignment itself. And in this last slide, last question, there is a split on this question because a lot of the students still kind of split between whether this evaluation tool helped the student become more engaged within the group. There is still a little bit of disagreement, but there is more on the side of agreement and neutral rather than disagree. And of course, I had to ask them also to write some comments, whether they liked it or not. Those people who like it said that this is an excellent tool for groups who have trouble getting everyone to participate in the project. I think it puts some kind of pressure or spotlight on people who are not willing to participate, and kind of helps them or guides them toward participation. Others thought it was easy, and of course, for others, it felt natural that for an online course that the instructor doesn't know what's going on with every student without having hard data to support that. So people thought because it's an online course, it feels like the instructor had a better idea what's going on behind the scenes. And we can see that in colors in real time. As the data comes in, you can switch those cells on and off and see, who's green and who's red. So basically you can tell who's working, who's not working. And of course, it's not a perfect tool. We know that it may not be the best, but it's open for improvement, absolutely. So some people don't like it because they had to start over with every other student. They had to start a new form, go back to the first page and select a different person and give feedback. That's understandable. It takes a little bit of time, but usually it doesn't take very long because there are very few questions, about 6 questions in the survey, and also 2 comment boxes that are optional. And then other people think it takes a long time, but everyone is entitled to their opinion. Like any research project or a new idea, it's not a perfect tool by any means. And there are some disadvantages and limitations, of course. Some of those things that I've learned a lot from, and I've been working on improving it. And currently, actually, I'm using Microsoft Forms, which is very similar to Google Forms. You can design whatever form you want, a survey. So what you need as an instructor, because it's kind of time consuming in the beginning when you still want to form or build the form initially, you want to set it up so people can come in and find it and it's there and it's ready for them to use. Also, you want a little bit of familiarity with Google apps or any other online apps that help you create these forms. So you need a little bit of training, maybe some tutorials, and now nowadays Google, YouTube and other places have a lot of training so people can learn more about these features. And of course the learning curve varies. Some people might be easy using these tools, others might be a little reluctant to use them. That depends on the person themselves, and it needs commitment and continuity. If you start a project, you may as well finish it and continue doing it. For me, it's been very helpful. I've been using it in other classes. I've been building on it, refining it, and I think it's a tool that I would like to use all the time and would be happy to help anybody who would like to use it. Some people who are not tech savvy, if you will, may see it as a little scary or intimidating, but technology is everywhere, and this is part of it. With Google Docs, there may be some confusion about data where it's accessed, so it's best to organize your files if you're using Google Drive. Organize them so you can see where things are. If you start using multiple tools and multiple spreadsheets, it gets a little too much to handle. And of course, like any project or new idea, you learn from your mistakes and always have the attitude to improve it and make it better for next time. This study has been published, and this is the abstract for anybody who's interested. I hope Dr. Atif can provide you the link to this presentation so you can look it up and read the abstract first, and you can search up, or if you're interested in having a copy of the published article, I would be more than happy to share it with you. And finally, here's my contact information. You can email me and ask me any question, or if you would like a copy of the study itself, I'll be more than happy to do that. Thank you so much. I am honored to present to you, and thank you for this opportunity. And I wish you all the best. Assalamu alaikum.